Here's a brief history of the Cinco de Mayo. It's not Mexico's Independence Day, as some of you may think. No, that's on September 16th. At that time, back in 1810, France had loaned Mexico money to help it buy arms to fight Spain to get its independence. But around 1861, France wanted it to be repaid, but Mexico had no money, so the French invaded Mexico with some battle-tested troops landing on the coast in an effort to collect their money. Either that or take over Mexico City and install Maximilian as their emperor. A battle between the French and the Mexican forces took place on May 5th, 1862, in the hilly city of Puebla, on the road from the coastal town of Veracruz on the way to Mexico City. The land from the coast climbs to between 5,000 to 8,000 feet. And there had been torrential rains at that time as the French marched toward Puebla. Well, their horses and cannons got stuck in the hilly and muddy roads, such that the French, who thought it would be an easy fight, could not carry out the European-style attack. Not only that, the French encountered something euphemistically known as Moctezuma's revenge. That's dysentery. And that caused severe stomach cramps and diarrhea for the soldiers. The untrained and poorly armed Mexicans were familiar with the terrain and used guerrilla Indian tactics such that the seriously dehydrated and debilitated French troops were forced to withdraw back to Veracruz. And Mexico claimed a victory over the world's most powerful and experienced military force. That, my friends, is a brief summary of the battle celebrated now as the Cinco de Mayo. What do you think of that? So, welcome Rotarians and guests to meeting number 5,298. Since we have no one that was born on May 5th, we'll go right into a new member introduction of Andrea McKenzie. She's the general manager of Santa Clara Valley Open Space Authority, and her sponsor was Rod Diridon. Andrea, in 3 minutes, tell us all about yourself. Go ahead.
Thank you very much, Fernando. Again, my name is Andrea McKenzie. I'd like to thank Rod Diridon, my sponsor, and Janet Fox, my mentor, and the staff, Red Badge Committee, and the leadership at Rotary for the very warm welcome I've received. For more than 30 years, I've worked in public service at the intersection of urban and open space planning to preserve wildlife habitat, open space, and agricultural landscapes. I am driven by a deep love of nature and a strong belief in the power of servant leadership and collaboration. Nothing excites me more than being around a group of out-of-the-box, unconventional thinkers to take on pressing environmental challenges. By way of history, I'm a proud daughter of parents from Hong Kong and England who immigrated to the US to start a new life in the early 50s. I was born in Schenectady, New York, but mostly grew up in Los Angeles with the Santa Monica Mountains as my backyard, which instilled in me a keen awareness of nature's value to urban communities. I completed my undergrad degree in environmental studies at UC Santa Barbara and my master's degree in urban planning at UCLA. And then I moved to the Bay Area to pursue my dream job as a National Park Service ranger in the Golden Gate National Recreation Area, the most visited urban national park. Growing up, I was really engaged in team sports. I was a guard on my high school basketball team and played for the UCSB and UCLA women's rugby teams. I've worked for many land conservation agencies and organizations around the San Francisco Bay region, including East Bay Regional Park District, Sonoma County Agricultural Preservation and Open Space District, and of course, the Santa Clara Valley Open Space Authority, where I've been the general manager for the past decade. At the OSA, as we call ourselves, our mission is to protect and steward the most significant open space and agricultural lands in Santa Clara County, including our highest profile and highest priority conservation project, the Coyote Valley. I also serve on the boards of Together Bay Area, formerly the Bay Area Open Space Council, and the SPUR Policy Board in San Jose. In terms of my family life, my spouse Jenny and I were one of the original 18,000 couples who married in 2008 before Prop 8 banned same-sex marriage in California. We have one daughter, Kiana, who's about to turn 19 and is just completing her freshman year at Gonzaga University, where she's studying to become a teacher. We live in the Cambrian neighborhood of San Jose with our two dogs, Toby and Zeke. I love to hike and camp and explore the natural world all over the planet, and there are many more national parks and wild places on my bucket list yet to be experienced in the years to come. Thank you very much.
Thank you, and please tell Terry Rogaway thank you from us, because she helped some students and me tour the Coyote Valley back in 2019. So thank you very much, and welcome. Next, we've got Catherine Tompkinson. She joined us in 2009 as a business consultant and is co-chair of the Military Care Committee with some updates and slides. You ready?
I am. Catherine? Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Absolutely. Fire away.
Who is controlling the slides?
Yes.
Thanks. So I have a few slides, but we can breeze right through them whenever the first one comes up. Let me just say that the mission of the Military Care Committee, there you see it, is to serve both active duty military personnel as well as veterans. We have the foundation funding to thank. Thanks to all of you Rotarians who contribute to the foundation. Your contributions make our work possible. Maybe next slide. Since we last talked to you back in October, we've done a few things. We mentioned at the time that we were going to do this grab and go at History San Jose. You can go through the next 3 slides really quickly. Just some pictures out at History San Jose. Thank you to Bill Schro over at History San Jose for helping us out with that event. And then in October, as I also shared last time we talked, we were putting together care packages for active military in conflict zones, and we partnered with Operation Care and Comfort. And we put things like toiletries and food, and there's a picture of all of us putting these things together. Go ahead, there are a couple more. And then I guess that's it. And then at Christmas time, we have a partnership with Fisher House and Defenders Lodge over at the Palo Alto VA. And we put together 100 packages, maybe next slide. You can see it all stacked up in my co-chair Dave Silva's living room. And there's a picture of some of the items that we put in those boxes. The red ones were for women and the green ones for men. And they were tailored. And there we are with the administrator at Defenders Lodge with Judge Hastings and Dave delivering 100 boxes. Then if we go to the next slide, just a couple weeks ago, we partnered again with Operation Care and Comfort to put together another 100 care packages. This time they will be received by our military servicemen in time for 4th of July. You can see we're writing handwritten notes. There's a handwritten note that goes into every box. Oh, let's pause here for a moment. We want to thank Cesar Chavez Elementary School, who had written a number of these delightful cards to our servicemen, and we were able to put a few of those in the boxes. Go ahead. And that's the contents of the boxes. Again, we tailored some for women and for men. Next. And upcoming activities for the rest of this calendar year. We're going to do another grab and go for commencement over at History San Jose. Again, this is for graduating veterans from San Jose State University. Go Spartans. We are partnering with the Burdick Project, which is also housed at San Jose State University. I want to thank Michael Conniff, who was so kind to connect us with your committee and some folks over on campus who can use our help. So we're going to digitize about 1,000 hours of audio and video oral histories. Hopefully we'll be able to participate in the Veterans Day Parade again this year. And we're going to do holiday care packages again for Operation Care and Comfort and the Defenders Lodge. Last slide. So thank you so much for the opportunity to share with you an update. And as always, we're just thrilled to have any new members. You can reach out to either me or Dave, the co-chairs. Thanks, Fernando.
Well, congratulations, Catherine. You and your committee have really been active, and you've done so much work, even though we've had this pandemic. So thank you very much. Next, we've got
you.
Mauricio Cordova, who joined us in 2018. He's got some announcements for tonight's Fiesta de Gala Rotaria. Mauricio, are you ready, my man?
I am. I'm here, Fernando. Thank you.
Take it away.
Awesome. Cool. So thank you. All right. Here it is. Fiesta de Gala Rotaria. We're here today, Cinco de Mayo. I'm looking forward to seeing everybody that is going to join us. We have sold over 270 meals. So we're super excited. About 180 something, 85 of you guys have decided to date and join us. This is our last chance to feature our sponsors. So the Salsa, the core companies, and Linda L. Lester, which are our higher sponsors. Thank you so much. We have our gala sponsors. Like I said, we would not be able to do any of this without all the fantastic sponsors that we have. Gold Trust, Black, Heritage, Republic Services, Kathy and Carl Silker, Larry Stone, Live Freely, Salsa Brian, Carl, thank you, Ballet, the Sueta Family, Tennis Skater, and Urban Catalyst, thank you so much. And on our Rumba, we have Basudo Insurance Services, Team and Sandra Gill, thank you so much. Huck Fenton, Lexus, Silker, Henderson Properties, Hopkins and Carly, Loaves and Fishes, Miller Morton, Cabilat and Nevis, excuse me, Valley Heating Cooling, State Farms, Sandy and Richards County, so much thank you. Valley Ford, William Stewart and Benning, and State Farm, thank you. Our in-kind sponsors, thank you very much, would be Big Kahuna Video, Sean O'Kane, thank you. Morena and Associates, History, Park San Jose, Mike Bohr for doing all the wonderful graphics and everything you're going to get to see. And Joseph George, of course, Bert, which is super fantastic. Thank you so much. We have a few things that we need to kind of talk about today. If you haven't registered, you can still do it for the auction. Text RCOSJ to 71760. And you can still, there's plenty of, we still got a great open, a lot of items are great, open and available for high bid if you want to. Raffle tickets. We need help with raffle tickets. We need to sell more raffle tickets, please. There's some great items there. The website for the event, which is what you see in the bottom of the screen, that one has the, there's a lot of pictures of the items here. So this is a great place for you to go in and take a look at the items. Make sure you register in the text to bid, which is the other item. And then May 7th, 7 to 8 p.m. on the website that we just showed, which is the sjrotary.maestroweb.com. Our event, wrap-up event online on the 7th, 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. will be there. No ticket necessary. Just plug into the website, and then you can just have some fun with it and join Carl and Suzanne, which are going to do a fantastic job wrapping up the event. We have some fun videos. We're going to have Sal Pizarro telling us how to make another perfect margarita. And this was twice as much fun as the one that Fernando showed us a couple of weeks ago. So it's fantastic. So this is one of the things that I think is great. And we're going to have a lot of fun, wrap up the auction. And we already, have you guys are doing fantastic on the bidding, but there's plenty available items. Please, we have 112 people that have registered to bid. We have like 400 people in the club. So come on, join us. Get in there and spend some money. Everybody saved some money here in the pandemic. Nobody went on vacations, so I'm sure everybody got a lot of money to save up. Spend it. And if you decide last minute you want to come today, send us an email. There is a tiny bit amount of not free, but extra meals that we can accommodate. So if you decided last minute you want to come in, buy a meal, we have about 10 tickets available that we could help today. Other than that, that's all I have. Like I said, auction. We will have art displayed today at the auction, and please come join us if you haven't decided to join us. And we'll see you also Friday night. Fernando, thank you very much. It's all yours.
Thank you, Mauricio. And here's what the book that would look like that you'll get tonight when you drive in through the Phelan Avenue entrance. And in it, they'll have some information. So we encourage you to pick that up. Also, in your meal bag that you're going to be given, will have the makings for that margarita, which you'll do for Friday. it won't be for tonight. That you'll have to go to Bert's wagon to get that up. So listen, I've got a nice surprise to these two ladies that are on my side. But let me read you this policy that I got through the board. The Rotary Club of San Jose proposed a club policy of conferring the designation as a Rotary International Honorary Rotarian to non-Rotarians, an individual or a couple who have provided exemplary and significant financial and/or volunteer services specifically to our Rotary Club. If circumstances warrant, the award may be offered once a year by nomination of the club president and approval by the club's board of directors. While not intended to be issued annually and subject to the board's approval, there's no limit to how many Rotarian International honorary members our club can have. The honoree shall receive a Paul Harris Fellowship Certificate and a pin. Here's what it looks like. I'll open it up for you. Here's, I don't know if you can see it. Can you? I hope you can. And the pin, of course, is the pin that we're going to be giving to each of these ladies. So they all receive all the usual Rotary Club emails and information, including the weekly bulletins. They'll be invited to attend and participate in Rotary Club of San Jose activities at no cost to the club, of course. They have to pay their own way. But they'll be listed in the club's annual membership directory under the category of RI honorary members. There's a small expense annually paid by the club to the Rotary International for a Rotary magazine. We'll do that for a year. Honorees may, of course, participate in and donate to Rotary sponsored programs or projects and the Rotary Club Foundation. Well, our club board of directors unanimously approved a policy allowing us to honor these non-Rotarians who have been exceptionally generous financially or through long and valuable service specifically to the Rotary Club of San Jose. You know, since I joined Rotary in 1983, there have been several non-Rotarians who meet that criteria. And I thought we should give them special recognition and tell them how much we appreciate all they do for us. As your club president, I nominated and the board approved 2 non-Rotarians to be Rotary International honorary Rotarians. They tell me they didn't know why they're here. So for the Fiesta de Gala Rotaria today, May 5th, Cinco de Mayo, I present to Noelle Roberta, better known as Bobby, and to Cindy Ann George, a Paul Harris pin and Rotary International membership certificate, which I showed you. The George family has given us a remarkable legacy. Bert George's grandfather, Joseph George Jr., was president of this club in 1949 and 50. Bert's dad, Glenn A. George, was club president in 1980 and 81, and Bert was club president in 2008 and 2009. Their respective spouses have been by their side and always supportive of their service to our club. So it's only fitting that we extend an honorary Rotary membership to Bobby George and Cindy George. But first, here's a little background on these remarkable women. First, on my right is Cindy Ann George. She long participated in our annual Rotary barbecues with Bert, preparing special appetizer dishes for these events. She's a terrific cook who for years has donated to our annual gala auction a wonderful dinner for 10 to 12 people at their vacation home in Napa, where she hosted, personally prepared, and helped serve those dinners. There's always a very popular gala item. Please note that the food and wine and all the related costs for these dinners come as much from Cindy's pocket as from Bert's. And she's done this for many, many years. Not only that, she's paid her own airfare on many Rotary committee trips to underdeveloped countries to help Rotary volunteers and doctors repair the cleft palates of children with that unfortunate and treatable condition. Even though she's not a Rotarian, she is a co-chair of the Rotary committee. Such actions are worthy of a Rotarian, but this is not necessarily one a non-Rotarian would ordinarily make, even one married to past club president. So thank you from all of us, Cindy. We love and appreciate you very much. Now we talk to Bobby. She was married to Glenn A. George, who sadly passed away in 2001. Bobby actively participated in Rotary events when Glenn was alive, and she continues supporting our club to this day. She often joins Rotarians as volunteers at the Kids Day, a program put on by the American Cancer Society at Great America, has attended lots and lots of Rotary events over the years. But every year since Glenn's passing, in his honor and in the spirit of Rotary, she and her family give $5,000 to a Rotary committee or to a Rotarian the family believes is worthy of such recognition. Money comes from the family corporation or Glenn's estate and is awarded every year during the holidays. Well, as a former lawyer, I can tell you California is a community property state. And needless to say, this gift comes to us with Bobby's blessing. She proudly honors her husband's memory and loves that her son has carried on this dedication of service to our club. So we very much appreciate what you two do for us, and we welcome you both today as official honorary members of our Rotary Club of San Jose family. In normal times, you would be receiving a standing ovation, but now we can only wave and thank you. The rest of you, please wave and thank Bobby and Cindy. So, my sweet friend, Cindy, here's your pen. Here's your Paul Harris Fellow certificate, and one from actually Rotary International, which comes to you as well. And that tells you that you are a valued supporter and friend of the Rotary Club of San Jose.
Thank you.
And Bobby, same thing for you, my dear. You get your own Rotary pin, and that one you can wear with pride. You can come to all our events as a Rotary honorary member of our club.
That's great.
All right. Thank you very much. And next we've got Suzanne St. John Crane. Suzanne, we're a little early, and that's fine. We can give our guest program speaker an opportunity to have a few extra moments to tell us all the things that he's doing and planning for us. So can you take it away from me, Suzanne?
Sure thing. Thanks, President Fernando. Beautiful ceremony there. Congratulations and thank you, ladies. Okay, so I'm going to introduce our program speaker, who I'm sure you don't know, right? If you've been living under a rock, you may not know that Mayor Sam Liccardo is the second term. This is his second term as mayor of the 10th largest city in the U.S. He currently serves as the chair of the Big City Mayors, a coalition of mayors from California's 13 largest cities, advocating for innovative solutions to combat homelessness. Thank you for that, Sam. And improve COVID-19 response. Yay. As mayor, Sam's priorities have included bridging the digital divide, this year working to get 100,000 low-income families free broadband, so critical right now, providing job opportunities for 4,000 teens in gang-impacted neighborhoods, building solutions to homelessness, including thousands of units of affordable housing, and addressing the climate crisis by launching the nation's largest community choice clean energy utility and multi-billion-dollar investments in new transit, as well as fighting to preserve thousands of acres of open space, which I know our new Rotarians are thrilled to hear. So nothing, though, could have prepared us for 2020. I know it's been an excruciatingly busy year filled with civic and social challenges beyond what we could have imagined. So we look forward to an update and this conversation with our friend and mayor, Sam Liccardo. Take it away, Sam.
Suzanne, thank you so much. Thank you for the very kind introduction. If you don't mind, I'm going to try to share a screen here so everybody can see whatever it is I'm trying to display. And hopefully I won't screw it up on you guys. I am not an expert screen sharer. And that is being demonstrated amply in this moment because my Zoom screen isn't even showing up. Okay, here we go. Share screen. We're almost there. We're almost there. In any event,
you grace, Sam. No worries.
Oh, good.
Been there.
So happy Cinco de Mayo, everybody. We are going to, and if anyone has expertise in screen sharing.
You are a co-host, so you should be able to share your screen.
I should be able to.
Yeah.
Oh, good. Because for some reason, it's not quite sharing. So maybe what we'll do is I'll just go and
Oh,
wing
there we
it.
go.
And you got something, but
Thank
that's
you, Sam.
probably not quite. That's part of it, but that's not quite it. So that's okay. Why don't I just wing it here?
We're going to do that.
And I think we'll leave it without the visuals. And I'll just say happy Cinco de Mayo, everyone. I am very grateful to be back with you, although I know we would all rather be in person, sharing hugs and good thoughts. On this Cinco de Mayo, I would like to honor someone who was born on the 5th of May. That is my maternal grandfather, Ted Aceves. And I know this is not Dia de los Muertos, but I should note Ted Aceves, who I think Fernando knows from my mother's bloodline, is a Mexican-American proudly. His grandparents, although I think Fernando knows a lot about the history of my family from from his maternal side, but his paternal side, they immigrated from Mexico during the Battle of Puebla. So we are clearly a family of lovers, not of fighters. They came to San Jose and worked in the Almaden mines. And I like to believe that it says something about the character of our city, that Ted Aceves, I know, struggled day to day just to get by as his family did. He would be very proud today to be able to say that he grew up in a city that would elect his grandson to be mayor. So I wanted to honor him. I want to talk to you a little bit about how we have learned from this pandemic, how this pandemic can help us as a city not get to a new normal, but to a better normal. And it seems to me that ought to be a critical focus of ours. And let me just ask, are folks able to see me on the video right now?
You know what, Sam? If you stop screen sharing, I think your staff member can screen share.
That would be it. Okay.
Yeah.
Very well. I'm going to stop the screen share
Why don't we
right
try
now.
that?
Thank you.
And
Thank
John
you very
During,
much.
if you can please let Christina screen share, make her a co-host.
Very well. No, that's okay. We'll just roll without the screen share. You're able to see me now. Is that right?
Yes, we can see Sam.
Okay, wonderful. Perfect. We'll just keep rolling. So as we talk about the lessons we've learned as a city, the questions are really, as we emerge from this pandemic, and we know this is going to be a slow going effort as we all push together. There are clearly lessons we've learned about how we can do better in serving our community and how we can thrive together as a community. And those lessons have been clearly learned in the last year. And I don't want in any way diminish the suffering of more than 2,000 families in our community that have lost their loved ones and all the hardship that has been endured in this pandemic. But I believe that there are lessons here and that there is an opportunity for us as we're reimagining cities throughout this pandemic. And I think we've seen as we look at restaurants that are now outside and yoga studios and exercise gyms, we're seeing cities physically reimagine themselves in very interesting and unique ways. And the question is, can this spur us to reimagine solutions to some of our greatest urban problems as well? And so I guess I would start with how we're doing in meeting basic human needs. We have a wonderful group of nonprofit organizations, Second Harvest Food Bank, by far the largest, that is out there providing food for thousands of our neighbors during times of need. What we saw in this pandemic was a huge increase in need, about 4x, and a desperate need for more countywide coordination. Although we had a lot of organizations, Hunger at Home and certainly Second Harvest doing the heaviest lifting, many churches, Loaves and Fishes, great organizations all out there hustling. The need for coordination and scale was apparent. The county obviously had their hands full managing a pandemic and asked us to take over and helping to coordinate and manage a countywide distribution system. And so we worked with a lot of nonprofit partners to scale from where we were before to 2.5 million meals, distributed meals a week. And it gives you a sense of the scale of the need in our county. And the critical issues were how we could connect residents to resources because folks were in need that never needed it before, how we could bring in thousands of volunteers and staff, and then how we could, with additional staff, manage distribution and logistics. We had dozens of city employees who stopped whatever they're doing, their day jobs, and decided and started working on how we could move and distribute food. And again, thanks to the great nonprofits like Second Harvest who did a lot of heavy lifting. But the results of our efforts, I think, have been considerable. 29 food partners that we funded through the city More than 8,000 volunteers engaged, particularly with the help of Silicon Valley Strong. I really want to thank you, Suzanne, for your efforts in supporting our Silicon Valley Strong fundraising and volunteer raising. With community partners, we have now served more than 140 million meals since the beginning of this pandemic. That is a tremendous amount of support that has been lent by the entire community for the entire community. We've stepped back from the countywide role. We're just now managing citywide with a lot of other great partners. And what this has taught us an awful lot is the value of partnership and the power of partnership to be able to provide that safety net in critical moments. And let's face it, we're all going to need this. We're going to continue to need this through recessions, through earthquakes, through whatever disasters we have coming up. So this has been an important muscle for all of us to exercise. Secondly, I want to talk a little bit about how we've changed our relationship with small businesses. You know, I mentioned how businesses have moved outside with San Jose al fresco. We are now enjoying our 300 days of sun a year in ways we didn't before. And frankly, I think a lot of us are enjoying it. We are recognizing that dining outside is a really good thing. It's a great way to bring eyeballs out to the street, makes us all feel safer, makes for a more vibrant streetscape. And it's not a bad idea having a yoga studio outside where folks can see what's going on and maybe they'll want to join. We've done a lot of work in new ways with new partners to, for example, distribute grants to nearly 500 small businesses that we have through programs that we've engaged in with our own local fundraising and obviously state and federal efforts through PPP and other programs. And all this has helped us forge new partnerships. I think of, for example, a great little nonprofit called Get Virtual, which engages college students in helping immigrant-led small businesses be able to get online, to be able to do their commerce online, to be able to create a web presence, and do all the things that we know are essential, obviously, when the economy is shut down. And frankly, they were essential well before too. It's just that these small businesses never had the help to understand how they could get a virtual presence and obviously become more successful as a result. So these new relationships that we're forging are going to be important as we emerge beyond this pandemic. I would also say internally at the city of San Jose, we've really engaged in a digital transformation. We hope that not just in the San Jose, but throughout government generally, we will get beyond the day when we're all sitting in line at the DMV, right? We recognize an awful lot of things can and should be done online. We've now got a digital inspections form that's enabling us to accelerate our inspections. We've got electronic plan review we just launched a couple months ago, which is helping us again accelerate our work. We now have 52 permit processes that are online that we've launched since sjpermits.org went on to its second iteration. We've issued more than 14,500 permits this way. And so what we're learning is how to move a little more nimbly, be a little more responsive, as everyone expects from the private sector. We're now able to start doing it now in the public sector. There are residual problems, though. I think everybody knows this has been a huge pain point for our city, and I think for most cities, which is permitting and planning. Lots of backlogs that we're still grappling with because we shut down things during the pandemic and now we're trying to catch up. So we've got a lot more work to do. The good news is we're putting the infrastructure in place to be able to get that backlog caught up much sooner and hopefully provide much better service, particularly to small businesses that really struggle with these kinds of delays. So we're doing more internally, certainly at the city, and how we engage with our small businesses and with our residents. Obviously, we know there are lots of other challenges that we never thought were city problems before, but we've had to simply take on. I think about, for example, the great digital divide. We knew 4 years ago when we started an effort on digital inclusion at the city that we had about 95,000 neighbors who lacked internet access, mostly because they simply couldn't afford it. We have many more residents who have very poor sub-broadband service, for example. So in 2019, we launched the San Jose Digital Inclusion Fund. We signed deals with major telecoms to help fund that. We've been raising money for it as well. And then the pandemic hit. And all of a sudden we realized everything we were doing wasn't nearly fast enough or nearly good enough because we had tens of thousands of children who couldn't learn remotely. We had thousands of their parents who couldn't get information online about their health or about how to get a job when they're laid off. And so this whole effort around the digital divide became that much more urgent. So we partnered, that is our San Jose Library program, partnered with Santa Clara County Office of Education. We poured about $10 million into this effort just last year alone, distributing almost 16,000 hotspot devices. Our libraries and community centers, now 16 of them now have free outdoor Wi-Fi, so folks can use them during off hours if they want to park in the parking lot, they need to get homework done, whatever it might be. But really, more importantly, we're pushing hard to get folks connected in their homes. And this partnership with Eastside Union High School District has accelerated over the last few months. We are now delivering free Wi-Fi to 89,000 residents. Many of those are residents, of course, living in the East Side who could not afford connectivity before. As a result of all of our efforts now, we've connected more than 100,000 of our residents over the last year and a half. And because of the acceleration of our efforts on this community Wi-Fi project, we will connect more than 300,000 by the end of next year. That is the size of a city of, say, of Pittsburgh or St. Louis, to give you a sense. So that's a massive effort. If we had tried this 10 years ago, we'd be talking about Google Fiber and how it would cost $2 billion. We're not doing that because we're innovating and trying different approaches, particularly with high quality Wi-Fi broadband. And we're continuing to innovate in those spaces. Facebook, for example, has been a partner with ours in this Telegraph initiative. We've tried different iterations of this, and now we're going to be launching what we call San Jose Access next month. That'll be providing free Wi-Fi here downtown that we think will be very high quality and very effective. And then in another month, we're going to announce a very interesting community crowdsource LoRaWAN network. This is, I won't describe in detail now, but suffice to say, it's pretty darn interesting. And the good news is it's not going to cost a single dollar of public money, but we think this could go a long way in addressing more of our digital divide and connectivity issues. And of course, we know it's not just about connectivity, it's also about devices and about literacy and skills in the digital world. Grateful the county has stepped up and other partners. We've raised a lot of money to help get more devices in kids' hands. And what we've learned is that simply refurbishing devices, recycling them isn't good enough. We know that those devices break down and they're not uniform with whatever kids are using in schools. And so partnership with Tech Exchange, we've discovered a different model. That is, we provide older computers to Tech Exchange. They get value from the parts and they provide us cash. And we use that cash to go buy new Chromebooks that the school might happen to require or whatever the district needs. And so we think that's a pathway going forward that can get more devices in more kids' hands, and we're continuing to learn. The digital literacy effort is really funded by this inclusion fund that we started back in 2019. And so we're supporting skills-based training with a lot of community partners that are trusted in their communities. They're doing it in Spanish and Vietnamese, and they're working with seniors and children in different ways. And particularly in our San Jose Public Library, we're seeing a real leaning in to try to see how we can help more folks get online productively for their benefit of their health, for their employment, for their education. Of course, if we're going to talk about great urban challenges, the greatest of them, which we know will endure well beyond the pandemic, is our homelessness. And among the many challenges, I'll simply say, we've got about 10,000 unhoused people in this county, 10,000 unhoused neighbors. And I can guarantee you, despite the common complaints, they didn't come here from somewhere else. Overwhelmingly, when we talk to folks in encampments and we're doing the research, we find 80, 90% of them or more actually lived in Santa Clara County when they were last housed. And so these are our own residents, our own neighbors. And a huge challenge, of course, is construction costs in this county. It costs about $700,000 for every apartment unit if we're going to build an apartment complex that is rent restricted. And that's $700,000. Now you can multiply that by 10,000 and you'll quickly get to a number of $7 billion. And that's a whole lot more than anybody's got. And we can't tax you fast enough to be able to pay for that kind of bill. The other challenge, of course, is we know apartment buildings take a long time to build, 4 or 5 years for a typical development cycle. So we know that we need to build more permanent supportive housing. We're all in on doing it. We passed a measure last year to do it. We supported the county's effort to do what they did with Measure A. And we're going to keep building permanent supportive housing, but we have to find other ways of doing it where we can do this more quickly, we can do this more nimbly, and we can do it far more cost effectively as well to get people housed. And the question is, how can we move faster and cheaper? And so we've been focusing on a lot of different efforts around prevention, because what we learned just prior to the pandemic with Destination Home and a lot of partners is we can save a lot of money and more importantly, save a lot of human misery if we can get to families just before they get their eviction notice, rather than trying to get to families after they're out on the street, because you got a much more expensive problem when they're out on the street. And through this homelessness prevention effort, we've been providing cash subsidies through a network of nonprofits led by Sacred Heart Community Services. And we have helped more than 8,800 households resolve their homelessness through this effort. And what we're finding is that, I'm sorry, I just cited a broader number. Forgive me. That's how many we've actually housed countywide. Forgive me. Let me get the numbers right. Let me just say, of the thousands of households that we have helped through this effort already, 98% are remaining stably housed after 1 year. And we're doing it with merely $4,000 on average of assistance. That is incredibly cheap compared to the cost of building more housing and all the other challenges of getting folks housed. Total, about 14,000 people have been helped through this program, this prevention program. And so our lesson really through the pandemic is how can we scale that work as we know so many are threatened? And so we've raised a lot of money with a lot of partners. Again, thanks to Jen Loving at Destination Home for her work. Big thanks to Chuck Robbins at Cisco and many others. City kicked in some money, county kicked in a couple million. We've raised and distributed already more than 36 million. We've got more that we've already got committed from the setting. We've helped more than 16,000 families in just a year period of time. And so what we've done, I think, is put in place a prevention program that is now able to get the dollars to people in need much more effectively. And we know where they are. We're also the first city in the United States to propose an eviction moratorium back in March of last year. And that's something that quickly became fashionable, as we saw throughout the state and eventually the country. And we're moving faster than we ever have to house unhoused residents. We've moved about 3,300 countywide into temporary and interim shelter. And again, with the county and a lot of our nonprofit partners, we've now moved more than 2,100 into permanent housing. And so all that is great, of course, but we all look around and we say, doesn't it look a lot worse than it ever has? And of course it does. It looks terrible. And although we've done an extraordinary amount of work with a lot of partners, for example, to retrofit the South Hall tent to now become a shelter for nearly 300 residents. What we see out on the street is a lot of folks are out there in encampments that were not moving because of public health guidance that we've been receiving for many months now at all levels, the state, county, and federal, that moving folks around out of encampments is going to expose them to greater harm from this pandemic. And so for the most part, what you see is more encampments because these are the same encampments that previously existed underneath bridges and in creeks and in places you didn't see them. And now the problem is much more visible. The reality is much more visible. The human suffering is much more visible. And although we're housing people faster, the visibility of the problem, I think, has suddenly caught everyone's attention. It's not just here in San Jose. I'm hearing this from my colleagues who are mayors throughout the state of California. And so we have to think more cost effectively about how we can deal with this problem in the longer term. There's no question it's become even more imperative. Motel conversions is something we've seen the state really take up. We're proud that we actually led this effort back in 2016 when we started converting declining, deteriorating motels into housing. We started with Casa de Novo in downtown and the Plaza Hotel. And now we've seen this expand, and certainly the governor has caught on to a great idea, and he launched Project Home Key, which has really helped thousands of folks get housed statewide. We've taken advantage of some of that funding out on North First Street, and we're going to continue to scale on it. The challenge, of course, is resources. We need more resources to buy motels and do a lot of other things. And so I'm leading a coalition of 13 mayors of the largest cities in the United States, of the state, rather. We're called the Big City Mayors Coalition. It's us in LA and San Francisco and lots of other folks. And we have made a push with the legislature and the governor. They've got a big surplus this year at the state level. It's been $40 billion. This is an unheard of surplus. We know it won't last. In fact, it'll be gone for sure by next year. And we know we have serious problems with homelessness, and this is our biggest problem as a state. And we're pushing them to dedicate half of that surplus to help the unhoused over a period of 5 years that we can use to buy motels, construct affordable housing, address the many challenges around mental health and many other challenges we know our homeless face, to finally get the resources to the problem this deserves. And the good news is we now have the Assembly and Senate on board, and we are hoping that we'll get the governor on board with that plan very soon. We continue to advocate, but $20 billion over 5 years is the ask. That is a tremendous amount of money, but yes, the need is huge. And so what we're learning, though, is with the money we have, we can be much more efficient. Just since the pandemic, we have launched an effort to build modular prefabricated housing, not in 4 or 5 years like the typical development cycle, but in 4 or 5 months. And not at $700,000 a unit, but at $110,000, $120,000 a unit. And what we've seen is that we've been able to complete about 3 projects in 10 months already. I'll tell you about a 4th project in a moment. And this is showing us that this prefabricated housing, when we can build it on some of the neglected sites that maybe Caltrans owns near a freeway, maybe VTA owns in a site that they're using for construction staging, whatever it might be, that we can build quickly and we can build dignified housing. And we are seeing a ribbon cutting on a 3rd site actually in the next week or 2. 4th site we hope will be under construction this summer. Along with that, we're finding new ways to engage with our unhoused residents. We know that trash is a huge problem in our city. Blight is a huge problem. With Goodwill and with Downtown Street Scene, we launched a program just prior to the pandemic called San Jose Bridge, where we're getting dozens of our unhoused residents cleaning the city. They're earning a wage. They are getting job training. They're getting services to transition into permanent housing. We've already seen a couple dozen of those members transition into permanent jobs. One of them is working with Tesla now. So we're seeing that a work-first approach does work with those unhoused who are ready to work. And they're helping to clean our city. We've set them out on more than 90 sites where we have a lot of encampments, and they're cleaning those sites twice a week, because we know that as human beings, we all produce a lot of trash. And if we're living outside, that trash is going to be outside, especially if they don't get weekly service. So I said twice a week, I meant twice a month, forgive me. Twice a month, we're out there cleaning encampment sites where we're able to collect the trash. We're also engaging with unhoused residents who are staying unhoused because we don't yet have enough housing for them, or for whatever other reason, in a pretty innovative program called Cash for Trash. We're the first city in the country to do this. This is a partnership we have with MasterCard, where we're providing payment cards to unhoused residents in their encampments. And they get charged, they get dollars allotted to those cards as they pick up trash in their community, provide us trash bags. We pay them per bag. And through that, we're building a relationship with many of those unhoused residents who might be otherwise service resistant. And as they're getting money, we're helping to clean up the city, and we're building relationships with nonprofits that can help more of them get off the street and into housing. So we want to continue to scale this program. We just launched it last November. It's been very successful so far. We've got 130 unhoused residents participating already. I got money in the budget now with the council having approved a couple of weeks ago to scale to 500, and we're going to keep expanding this program. And we've got a dozen cities around the country have all been asking about how they can replicate it. And I think they're launching it now in Memphis and West Sacramento and a few other cities. So we're going to see how this works out, but we think it's working pretty well already, and we want to scale it. Finally, I just want to talk about 2 other programs that we've launched through this pandemic that are teaching us different lessons about how we can engage people more significantly. The first is a program that I just announced through the budget message called Resilience Corps. We know that young adults are particularly hard hit in this pandemic because they're more likely to have those service jobs in the hotels and restaurants and other businesses where they're out of work. And a lot of those businesses aren't coming back for a long time, we know. And so we got to find ways to get them working, and we got to find ways to have them working, doing things that can help our community be more resilient. So we've got a lot of partners in this one, including Work to Future, which has been really essential in helping the job training connection in community colleges and a lot of other programs. But we're getting hundreds of young adults now employed supporting our vaccination centers with the county. They're out there helping to clean up our city. They're helping to plant trees. We know we've got a huge deficit in our urban forest, and we know that can be a huge benefit to a lot of particularly low-income neighborhoods where we don't have nearly enough street trees. They're clearing areas out where we know there's exposure to potential wildfire risk. and we're providing clearance and defensible space for homes, a host of different tasks. And some of them are actually college students or, for example, tutoring kids who are suffering from learning loss through this pandemic. So we think there's a lot of ways that our young people can be of great service, and they're earning a living wage while they're doing it. And we're hoping to expand this program. We're talking to the governor's team now. They like the idea. They want to scale this statewide. And so we hope that we can continue to scale it well beyond a few hundred young people today. The last program I'll just mention is something you may have seen something about in the news the last few weeks, which is called San Jose Aspires. And the challenge we face for the future of our city is that too many of our young people don't have a clear path to college. And we know this is the determinant for the success of a city. What percentage of your population is college educated? That determines everything about the prosperity of your city 20 years from now. We've seen data, study after study shows this. And so the challenge we have is that we know high schools are strapped for resources. And throughout California, the average high school student gets about 12 minutes of college counseling over the course of their 4-year experience. And the majority of our kids in public high schools in San Jose today don't have college educated parents. So they don't have adults who are deeply engaged with them and helping them to understand how they can get from here to college and beyond. And as a result, it's often not on their radar. They just think, oh, it costs too much. I can't possibly do it. So we've been out there fundraising, and we've raised more than $6 million for this effort called San Jose Aspires. And we're using a digital platform to engage students with performance-based micro scholarships. For every good decision they make, for every stride they make, for example, in getting at least a B average in a A through G course, a core course, or maybe through after-school programs that are particularly academically focused, or summer jobs, or maybe just for filling out a FAFSA form so they can get financial aid, or taking a module online to learn about financial aid programs. They are provided virtual scholar dollars in their micro scholarship accounts. These virtual dollars are on their online platform, and it helps them understand what are the good decisions and the good actions they can take from their very first week in high school to help them be successful to get to college. What gets them aligned with going to college? This is essentially a virtual college guidance counselor. Now, we also are supplementing with a lot of volunteers who are going to help to provide human contact as well. But we think that we know that 14 and 15-year-olds love to be gamified. They love to be online. We think this is a way we can get to students to help them make better decisions. At the end of their 4 years, those virtual scholar dollars become up to $5,000 of real dollars they use to offset the cost of going to college. And we know that's not nearly enough, but if they're participating deeply in the program, they're getting other financial aid, other loans, other grants that has enabled them, first-generation students, to get to college and beyond. So we're now in Overfelt High and San Jose High, an Opportunity Youth Academy. We want to expand this program. And if you want to help us, we'd love to have your support. San Jose Aspires, and I'd be love to talk to any of you individually. If you'd love to get your company involved in this, we're fortunate to have a lot of great partners already. I'm going to stop talking now because I've talked long enough. Thank you all.
Thank you, Sam. Wow. I had to take a breath for you, man. That's a lot. A lot going on. I've tried to synthesize some of the questions in the chat, so we'll do a lightning round here.
Great. And I'm going to get some water, so I'll be offline off the video for just a second while you're talking.
Okay, not gonna pull a Marco Rubio, are you? Okay, we're going to, one of the big questions that we want answered, Sam, is about what life's going to look like for you after November 8th, 2022. And in fact, somebody was so bold as to ask, what will Sam's life look like after being mayor? And will you consider a run for governor given the expected recall?
Let me answer the last question first. No, we've got a governor, and I'm not a big fan of recalls. I think it's a bad way to engage in democratic governance. If you have to worry about a recall every time you need to make a tough decision in the middle of a pandemic or a crisis, our country, our state's going to be in big trouble. And so I don't support the recall, obviously. I have a good relationship with Governor Newsom. Hey, look, we've all made mistakes. Governor Newsom, I think, is doing a pretty exceptional job under very difficult circumstances, though I know, obviously, we are all critics, including myself, and we can all talk about how we might do it better. In terms of my own future, my wife, I know, will be happy to see me get a real job when I'm done with this. So I don't have any clear plans, but I guess through all this, I'm going to have to figure out a way to get a real job.
Pretty big job you've got now, I would say.
Yeah.
So about the eviction moratorium, today I just noticed breaking news, the federal judge has struck down national eviction moratorium. What's the latest status on that locally? And then the flip side of that, of course, is people have lots of tenants and people have mortgages to pay. So how can the city justify legislating no evictions without requiring banks to stop foreclosure? So give us both sides of this.
Yeah, super important question. So first, I haven't read the opinion yet at the federal level. We think we have a statewide eviction moratorium as well. And so we expect under state law that will be upheld, though obviously we'll all be looking carefully at these opinions. So the city obviously will do whatever it needs to do to try to protect our tenant or our residents. Appreciate the challenges for many landlords, particularly mom and pop landlords, who are struggling mightily right now. The reality is this: if we did not have an eviction moratorium, our homelessness crisis, which we all agree is a crisis, would be many times worse, and the scale of this, I think, would be atrocious. And so there was simply no option for us. The human suffering would not have been anything we could have possibly grappled with. And let's face it, we're not doing a great job now. In terms of apartment owners, the state has a very effective program today that pays landlords 80% of their back rent if they forgive 20% of the back rent. And we all know this moratorium is going to be phasing out. We are participating as a city, and I know the county as well, in various efforts to get dollars directly to those landlords and to apartment owners we know who have suffered as a result of lost rent. The good news is, despite the moratorium, we're still seeing very, very high rates of people paying rent in this community, which again says a lot about our community, because let's face it, a lot of folks could take advantage of this and get away with it. But at the last count I saw, 93% were paying their rent. And paying it fully. Now that's 3 months old, so it may be different through the most difficult period of the winter. But I think suffice to say, there are resources. There are a lot of resources at state level. What I'm hearing from the governor's team is they're undersubscribed in terms of landlords who are taking advantage of the state money. It is free. It is available. It'll pay off 80% of that back rent. Please take advantage of it. If you need information about it, go to SiliconValleyStrong.org, and there's lots of information. We'd be happy to walk you through it.
That's great. Talk to us about the sanctioned encampments. How many abatements have there been in the last 12 months? How do you feel about these?
Yeah. So when we started the pandemic, we said, okay, there's going to be no abatements because we've got this health guidance. Because we all know homeless residents are, among the many things they suffer from, health impacts are very severe. There's a lot of what we call comorbidities that would make them very vulnerable if they were to get COVID. And so the guidance was, don't move people. What we figured out pretty quickly is there's still some safety and health issues if you're not moving people. If they're living near roads, particularly freeways, we got to move them. And more recently, when we saw as schools are starting to reopen and so forth, if they're camped out at schools or near schools, we got to move people. And so we're going to continue to folks where there are the safety and health issues. Generally, otherwise, we're not moving people in conformance with the guidance. But you can be sure as things start to open up, we're going to be moving encampments again. And that is by necessity because, again, health and safety issues are significant where you simply allow encampments to grow and grow and grow. And we know there's safety concerns for a lot of residents. We do not have quote unquote sanctioned encampments, but what we do have is, I guess, the functional equivalent, which is there are currently 18 locations that we're growing in different parts of the city where we have garbage bins and washing stations and outdoor latrines. Mobile latrines. For example, porta potties. Thank you. You can see at a ball game. And we're providing those basic services. And then at many more encampments, we're providing trash cleanup and other kinds of services and responses, particularly health response with the county and cash for trash and other programs that help try to get folks back on their feet. So there's a lot we're doing with folks in those encampments where we're not moving them. We don't call them sanctioned encampments, and there's lots of reasons why we don't. in part because we'd all be spinning our wheels dealing with unhappy neighborhoods about where there is legal entitlement to camp and where there isn't. And that is not a good use of our resources or anyone's time. We'd much rather focus our resources on getting people housed and dealing with the impacts.
Sam, are you going to be able to stay a little bit after we formally close the program at 1:15?
I'd be happy to.
Great. Well, let me just interrupt now, say thank you to you, Sam, for today's program. And you talked about a tree deficit in San Jose. Well, you'll be pleased to know that on your behalf and on behalf of all of our program speakers to our programs, we have made a deal with our city forests.
Right on.
To plant, well, we started off with 46 shade trees. Then Carl Guardino donated 10 more, and then 16 were planted by 3 Rotary committees on Earth Day. So it's a total of 72 trees we've planted in East San Jose to combat heat islands, climate change, and improve neighborhoods and provide habitat for wildlife. I think your audience might be interested. You touched on it a little bit, but I'll give you a little bit more history. You traced some of your ancestors on your mother's side to Sergeant Jose Maria Francisco Ortega from 1734 to
much better than me, Fernando.
1798. Write this down. He was on Gaspar de Portola's second land expedition to Alta California in 1769. As the expedition's chief scout, Jose Maria was the first European to see what is now known as San Francisco Bay. Now, as Sergeant Ortega's descendant on your mother's side, you are a mayor of El Pueblo de San Jose de Guadalupe, now known as San Jose, California. Thank you for your leadership, your comments, and your friendship. You've done a wonderful job, and I'm very proud of you. Next week, we have a speaker, author Anne Lamott, speaking on her book, Dusk, Night, Dawn, on revival and courage. She writes about alcoholism, motherhood, Jesus, often with self-effacing humor. She writes about what most of us normally don't like to talk about. In all her many novels, she writes about loss of loved ones and loss of personal control. She tells her stories with honesty and compassion, which lift us, comfort us, and inspire us, all the while helping us laugh to better deal with these challenges of life. Don't forget, those of you coming tonight, that bag that you're going to get your meals in has a margarita kit to be used on Friday, not tonight. So everything should be working out all right to make that perfect margarita. So that ends our formal part of our meeting. As I normally close, I say that in the words of my favorite immigrant governor, hasta la vista, Rotarians. I'll see you. Okay, Sam, back to you.
Sam, just a couple more questions I've got for you from the chat, and then we'll let you go. I know you've got a full plate yourself. Mentally ill homeless folks, very visible, not a huge population, but very visible and not necessarily in a safe situation for themselves or for community members, right? So how might we come up with more humane solutions for these folks that keep them and our community safe? Do we have enough, and then kind of a follow-up to that too, do we have enough city-county personnel hired to work with these encampments of these folks?
Yeah, super important question. So I'm not the expert in mental health because the city doesn't do mental health. Those are throughout the state of California. There's a county responsibilities. They do all things health-related, hospitals, mental health, drug rehab, all those kinds of health-related issues. And they have the money and they have the experts for that. But I would say, because this is a concern for the country, really particularly in California, there's no question we need a lot more beds for individuals who have serious mental health issues. What I recall on NPR just a couple weeks ago, the head of public health for the county of San Francisco said that somewhere around 80% of what we see out there as we view as mental health related episodes, guy's got his pants down and he's screaming at traffic. Huge percentage of that is connected to methamphetamine use, either currently or recently. And we know that also extended methamphetamine use has tendency to cause a lot of psychosis. And so it is a particular concern to me that we're not getting to folks who are using, particularly if they're using in homeless encampments. And meth is incredibly cheap now. And I know everybody talked about the opiate crisis. That more or less passed us by in San Jose. We've always been a methamphetamine town, like it or not. And that is a really dangerous drug. And it is absolutely related to an awful lot of the behavior that we're seeing. And so I think we can't help but avoid the fact that we have, yes, a mental health crisis. We also have a drug use crisis. And some of that does relate and intersect with the criminal justice system. And we have to be compassionate in how we're dealing with folks who have mental health challenges or drug challenges. But we also can't avoid that often the only way we are able to get somebody to treatment is if a judge says, you shall go or else. And I have a bit of a prosecutor's perspective on this. I know others may not share it, but I think the data bears this out in an awful lot of studies. If you're talking about hard methamphetamine use, if you don't have the ability to have somebody standing in front of a judge who says you have a choice between treatment or jail, they simply won't go to treatment. And what we have now with no bail, we've got a jail that's only about a third full for various reasons related to the pandemic and so forth. And a lot of changed policy statewide is nobody's actually in custody long enough even to get in front of the judge. I'm not arguing for long sentences. I'm not arguing for hard punishments. I am arguing for accountability, which means you got to have a judge at some point involved. And so that people understand their consequences and that they need to go get treatment, because we simply as a community don't think it's humane to simply let people continue to roam around our community high on meth or coming down off of meth and knowing what the consequences are, particularly for violent crime. So anyway, sorry to go way off on that tangent.
No, great explanation. I appreciate that. Speaking of criminal justice, we do have a question about police. San Jose has the lowest number of police of any major city potentially. Yeah. Is it just that we don't have the funds, or to hire more cops? Is there another reason why you don't bring this up as a major issue? I'm curious if you all are thinking about the cahoots model that happens up in Oregon, where mental health folks are called on many calls versus police. Where are you at with this?
Yeah, all the above, all true. So first, we have the most thinly staffed police department of any major city in the country by a huge margin. So you can probably understand why when people were coming and protesting at my house saying defund the police, I decided that wasn't a great option for a city that had pretty much defunded the police over the last 2 decades. We've actually added about 300 police officers in the time I've been mayor, and we've had to tax our residents to get there, to find the money to do it. And I'm grateful our residents have had the confidence in us to say yes, to have their dollars invested to improve not just police, but fire and some other basic services, emergency response in various ways. So yes, we need more police officers, but yes, we also need alternatives to police, because I think we all understand, particularly in the context of mental health, that when someone's having a mental health episode, what we don't need is to have the first human being with contact with them be someone with a badge and a gun. We know only bad outcomes will result, and we've seen those bad outcomes time and time again. And so the cahoots model is a very intriguing one from Oregon. For those who don't know, basically relies on mental health professionals and volunteers who work in partnership and reaching out to particularly homeless individuals with mental health issues. We think there are a lot of models out there. In fact, we've been trying to push for several years. Eddie Garcia, when he was here 3 years ago, we were pushing to try to get more county public health workers out with police officers, both in ride-alongs and also driving separately when we were getting those calls, so that we'd have that mental health professional there first. So those are the kinds of models where we recognize that we need to reimagine policing in the era after George Floyd's murder, and that we need to rethink how we deliver public safety in ways that don't just involve a badge and a gun, that involve the community more proactively. Certainly, we're a little ahead on this process in terms of, we launched this community service officer program 7 years ago, and we've been growing that steadily. And these are folks who are not armed, who respond, when someone's had a burglary, for example, and they collect evidence and take photos. And we think that's much more cost effective. It's also it helps our officers obviously focus on their highest priority violent crimes. but we know there's a lot more work that needs to be done. So we're launching a reimagining effort that has already launched. We're now in our third public meeting, I think, with a lot of community partners to talk a little bit about how we can better respond in different ways that don't involve police officers. Because let's face it, we're never going to have enough cops because we simply don't have the money. So we're going to keep doing all we can to keep hiring cops and do these other things.
Thank you for that. Necessity is the mother of invention. Outdoor dining is a great example. Will we keep it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
San Jose Alfresco's here to stay.
Yay! I would love hearing that. Will there be a resolution to save the trees in the Rose Garden area recently in the news? Speaking of trees.
I'm guessing it's not in the Rose Garden, but in the neighborhood. Is that right?
Could be. I'm taking straight from the
I
chat.
better go catch up on the news then. Everybody was out there slaying trees, so we'll go find them. We'll take them down.
The development boom is exciting, but also concerns many of us working downtown is, with parking. This is about parking. How is that an issue?
Yeah, parking. Well, look, I'll say this. If you have a downtown with plentiful parking, you got a failing downtown. I don't know a downtown in the country where there's enough parking. And there's going to be challenges. There's no question. Look, downtown west, that is that whole area west of 87 is going to be a giant construction zone for several years, right? We've got major projects underway, multi-billion-dollar BART project, the largest public works project in the county's history. We got a small complex that Google's working on, 7 million square feet, high-speed rail. We got a lot going on. And so, yeah, there's going to be a lot of construction impacts. We're going to do everything we can. We've been working with a lot of partners. I think about amazingly collaborative partners like Adobe, who are saying, hey, we got 1,000 spots in the building that we're building right now. We can make those available to the public when Sharks are having their games and things like that. And so we got a lot of partners who are digging in different ways. We're going to keep trying to be scrappy and find ways to help people park. But our future is, look, we're investing billions of dollars of your taxpayer money on transit. That is the future for our city and our downtown, I should say, in particular. We know that's not citywide, but certainly downtown. We're going to try to find ways to make this a downtown that is vibrant and that is engaging enough for people to want to be in without bringing a lot of cars.
Final question, sir. Best and worst of your time as mayor. Give us a story, or the best of times, the worst of times, Sam.
The best of times, the worst of times are usually right one after the other. I think about, there are too many to mention, but, I think about how, after the flood, which was devastating to thousands of our residents who were forced out of their homes. And then literally within 5 days, Paul Pereira had worked with a whole bunch of community organizations. We had 4,000 people come out to help people get back their possessions and clean up and do everything they could to help support the community, which was beautiful. It was, it just brought tears to my eyes to see so many people out just trying to help their neighbors. Similarly here in the Silicon Valley, strong effort. Thank you, Suzanne, for what you did. So many folks just jumped in. We've had more than 8,000 people jump in to help us do everything from distribute food to support vaccination, to do all kinds of things. And that's the thing that just gets me really fired up and excited, just when you see a community pulling together at a time when things are so tough.
Charlie McCullum and others are praying that we can certainly preserve our beautiful arts culture too, which has been gutted over this past year. So hopefully that is on the city's mind as well.
We got some grants out there. So if you got an arts organization, you don't have help, give us a call. We'll get you directed.
Thank you. So Jim Reed's going to give me the hook in a second. So I bet you have another meeting. Thank you so much, Sam. Appreciate it. Thanks for all these questions.
It's a pleasure.
Take care. Out last night on the Breeze of Innovation. Thank you.
Oh,
very nice.
yeah.
Oh, yeah. Woo-hoo. Unanimous. It's fabulous. Take care.
Wait, now we raise the money. Take care, guys.